Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes Fire Authority Overview and Audit Committee for March the 11th, 2026. The meeting is being recorded and will be available on the Fire Authority website later on for viewing. We have quite a long agenda as usual, but hopefully we can work through the papers at a good pace. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to read all the papers and we can get through some questions. There are papers to both note and a few that do need decisions, so I'll try and point those out as we go through them. I think there are no fire alarms. We've already had that at 9:30. So if you do hear a fire alarm, then please leave through the doors and gather in the car park outside. There is also one additional paper that was issued to the committee on Monday afternoon, and it's on the desk in front of all members. And that's going to come up under the final internal audit reports on item 7 for discussion. But I did think, given that it was a late paper and pertinent, that we should have it available if we wish to discuss that. So that is there for you to discuss. So without further ado, I'll move on to item number 1, which is apologies. Do we have any apologies, Katie?
Yeah, Councillor Ado.
Thank you. Item number 2 is minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. So the first is to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the Overview and Audit Committee held on the 5th of November 2025. Do members have any questions for accuracy, or are they happy to approve the minutes? Approved. Thank you very much. I'll sign those later if that's okay. And on the second set of minutes, we did have an additional special meeting so that we could get the accounts signed. So members happy to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the special meeting held on the 11th of February 2026. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 3 is matters arising from the previous meeting. And I'd like to invite officers to provide any verbal updates on the actions noted in the minutes from the previous meeting. So officers, I think there are about 4 items. So the first one was OA09, Internal Audit Report Strategy, Internal Audit Charter and Internal Audit Plan. Mr. Hemming, I think you were going to, that was about member training.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So we discussed the training between you and I, and we agreed that it would be appropriate for some treasury management training for members. So Marcus is just working with the treasury management providers to organise some dates, and we'll get those circulated to members.
We did something very similar for Buckinghamshire Council, and I think all the members of that Audit and Governance Committee found it very insightful. So those that have done it, you get the opportunity of a refresher, and those that haven't done it, I think you'll find it very insightful. So look forward to that being set up. The next item, 0826, Corporate Risk Management Policy and Framework. And I asked a question about how the organisation risk group was an opportunity to get some more member oversight on that in terms of how the internal governance processes. And Mr. Palmer, you've invited me to have a look at some of those, and if any of the other members of the committee would wish to observe the risk management group, they'd be more than willing to do so. And please get in touch with Mr. Palmer if that's something you'd like to do. So you sent me a date, I think, which is upcoming on to do that. So thank you. And we also talked about devolution and local government reform. And I think I asked Mr. Britton if we could look at that. So you might want to give us an update.
Chair, yeah, I did agree that I would programme something in for 26-27. That's still the case, and no doubt we'll perhaps have a further conversation about that in this meeting when we come to the corporate risk register.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think the final point was OA29 annual audit progress report. And we looked at, given the need to catch up on accounts, we were going to look at the timings of meetings and the number of meetings, because we do have quite a lot of items on each agenda for this meeting. And maybe just having an extra ordinary meeting of this committee would help us have a less intense agenda and not have a need for a special meeting. So we've just been talking about the backstop requires us to move forward a month, doesn't it? So I don't know, Mr. Hemming, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so the backstop date for the accounts for last year was the end of February. For the accounts we're just going to start producing shortly, the backstop date will be the end of January. So we're discussing before the meeting, we'd probably want to have a meeting in January to make sure we hit that backstop date, and then provisionally maybe July, October and end of March to kind of spread it out throughout the year. We did, going back when I first started, we did have 4 meetings a year of the audit committee, and that would probably be my personal preference. We'd have those 4 meetings just to kind of, as you say, it's a very big agenda, to spread that out a little bit more.
And it's also the preference of our external auditors that we have more meetings in the diary. So they made that clear as well in their reports. Okay. Item number 4, disclosure of interests. Do members have any disclosure of interests on this? No. Okay, thank you. Item number 5, questions. Have we received any questions?
None, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We now come on to the internal audit show. So I think they have half the agenda here. So Simona's got they've both got bottles of water at hand, ready to refresh. So we have a number of reports here. So moving on to item number 6, which is the internal audit report. And this is, get to my pages. For noting, members note the progress of the delivery of the 25-26 internal audit plan. So, Ms. Harlock, if you want to introduce the paper, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So members recall that we presented the 25-26 internal audit plan, which you signed off in July 25. So what we're doing here is just providing you a progress update in terms of our service delivering that approved plan. We provide a summary in terms of the engagements that we've completed, and at the point of drafting the papers it was 5, but actually we're presenting to you today 6 papers that have been completed, and they'll be discussed in detail as part of item 7. So from page 6 of that particular item, the appendix, we set out the status of each engagement. So we've summarised the outcome from for each review in terms of the assurance opinion, and also noting the papers that you saw at the November meeting. So I won't go into detail about the actual audits that we've completed, because we'll do that in the next agenda item, but it's just to give you an oversight of our delivery of the approved plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I say I am delighted about the summary page at the back of this particular section, which oh no, that comes on to the next one that's going to lay out our next timetable. So I'm getting ahead of myself on this one. Do members have any questions on this item? Members happy to note this report? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7, and this is the internal audit report, full year 25-26 final internal audit reports. Again, this is for noting, and the recommendations that members note the final audit reports for full year 25-26. There are 6 now, with the issue of the late one on Monday and the papers in front of members. So again, I invite Ms. Harlock to introduce this paper.
Thank you, Chair. So within this paper, we have 6 engagements. 3 of them are audit reviews, where we've given you an audit opinion. The other 3 are advisory pieces. So this is where there's no opinion, but we've identified areas of improvement. So we'll go through those in turn. I will pause after each appendix just to give an opportunity to comment and provide any questions. So Appendix 1, which is page 41 of the pack, if you're looking at it electronically, this is the core financial controls audit. This review considered 11 key control areas and evaluated any areas of weakness identified in the previous year audit. So we have raised within the report 5 findings. We have 3 that we've rated as medium, and I'll just summarise those and reference them to you. So we have finding around segregation of duties relating to the financial system. We've got a second finding regarding debt recovery, and again, this is more concerned with the communication with legal and recording that communication in terms of decisions, and the remaining findings are low priority. All the other findings from previous years have been addressed and were not identified as weaknesses in this year. So I'll pause there for questions.
Mr. Lancaster.
Thank you. Can you just repeat the second one? Why it was given the medium rating?
So, which is it, the debt?
The finance team, the debt, yes.
The debt recovery one. So we have a rating there with regard to the decision and the recording of the action. Sorry, yeah, it's concerned with how we didn't record the decision to communicate with legal. So there's no audit trail in terms of the rationalisation for that debt recovery. So the decision taken is appropriate. There was conversation with legal, but we just couldn't see the evidence in terms of when legal said, yes, we're going to write it off, or no, we're not going to take any further action. So it's maintaining clear audit trail with regard to debt write-off.
So on that principle, it's something that we've just marked off on this occasion, but it is in future practice to make sure that we've got an audit trail, technically.
Fundamentally, yes. I think it's just failure to record it in terms of so everything that we do is evidence-based. So we want to make sure that you've followed the debt recovery process per the policy, and within that policy the next step is to make a referral to legal. So there was information and communication with legal, we just didn't see the record of it, and then the final decision to write off again was appropriate for the circumstance for that one exception that we looked at, but it was just the recording of the communication between finance and legal that was lacking.
Do officers want to come, Mr. Hemming?
Yeah, just to add a bit more detail to that, Selina's covered it really well, but a bit more insight is it was related to a company that owed us money that went into administration. So Graham and I had the conversation around it's not worth recovering because we're not a preferential creditor, we're not likely to get anything, it'll cost us more to recover than the debt is worth. We did take the debt to the executive committee for approval for write-off. So Selina says we went through all the necessary approval processes. We just simply didn't record that Graham and I had that conversation as part of the audit trail.
Can I ask why?
It was just an oversight. So we'd had the conversation, we just didn't note down that we'd had the conversation.
Any other questions on this particular report? So I would just like some commentary perhaps from internal audit and then officers on action number 1, which is about the segregation of duties, because I think this is an important thing that we need to note, and to get an explanation as to why the situation is the way the situation is. So
I can go first in terms of setting out key control expectations. So I think there's also recognition in terms of the size of organisation with some of these key controls. So we would expect that the person who does the processing in terms of transactions should be somewhat removed from maintaining the admin access to the system. And fundamentally, that's where your exposure is here. I think there are mitigations and controls around it. We're not saying they have been circumvented, but there is an exposure to recognising that in terms of wider control framework. So I'll pass over to Mark to give you further assurances, but we were satisfied with the recognition that there is a gap there.
Yeah, so as Selina says, the optimum segregation would be to have 2 totally separate teams dealing with this. And I think that's the way the Bucks Council have it set up. You have IT team and finance team with separate permissions. It doesn't totally remove the risk having 2 separate teams, because if you give sysadmin rights to someone in IT, they could in theory do the whole process from end to end. As Selina said, we do have compensatory controls in place to monitor those. We're just having a look how those can be tightened up even further. But in terms of my position as Director of Finance, I'm comfortable with the level of risk, but it's important that it's highlighted here in this report.
Councillor Lancaster, you're
I take on board your comments that you want to have a tighter risk on it, but are you going to be able to do something to make sure that it is the lowest risk possible, or are you just going to keep it as the low risk?
We'll keep the permissions as they're set up. What we'll do is we'll run, there's some extra reports we can run in the system in terms of audit logs, just to give us that extra reassurance that no one's done anything that they shouldn't do in the system.
and that is that they're running a series of reports, so there is the opportunity of transparency and scrutiny there to do that. But I think it was important to just have that discussion in public here. So
I need to highlight these things. I agree with you 100%.
And I would reiterate, obviously, these have given reasonable assurance. They're not areas of high risk. So, okay, do you want to move on to the next report?
Thank you, Chair. So I'll move on to Appendix B. So this is the payroll audit. This starts on page 55 of the pack. So the audit evaluated 6 key control areas and reached a substantial opinion. We've only identified 1 low priority finding, and this is regarding compliance with the expenses policy. And we note within the report the exceptions that we identified. So I'll pause there for comments.
Any questions, comments from the committee? No, I'm not seeing any, so I think it's a good and substantial assurance there. So I think we're very happy with that one, and well done to the team on the payroll. Thank you. I think we move on to the next one.
Thank you. So we'll move on to Appendix C, and this is the energy management audit. So that starts on page 65 of your pack. And this audit focused on 7 key control areas and resulted in 7 findings being raised. The overall opinion is reasonable. It's just important to note that we have identified 6 medium priority findings in there and 1 low priority. So I will sort of give a bit of a summary on the 6 medium priority findings. Apologies. So the first finding related to the lack of periodic updates to senior leadership or members with regard to the Environment and Climate Action Plan. And we haven't provided a robust action with regard to how they'll address that going forward. Finding 2 is concerned with embedding the monitoring against the energy efficiency and emissions targets. Again, we have data available through the smart meters, and I think it's an opportunity to just further enhance the control framework around that. I'll move on to finding 4, another one to highlight. So this relates to the logs being maintained where we have meters that are not working. So again, they were being fixed, but we don't know how long it took for them to be fixed. So I think just maintaining a better record of whether meters that are not working, we log the issue and the resolution undertaken with it, and further enabling escalation where there's continuous issues around that. The next finding I will move you on to is around sort of improved integration around the energy management data with the finance systems and the asset management. And again, there's an opportunity to integrate that data when making decisions around procurement. So again, energy efficiency being a factor that's taken into account in other decisions that are taken by the organisation. So I will pause there, not go any further within the report, and take any comments.
Do officers want to comment on the report at this point before I open it up to the committee?
Yeah, just to add, Chair, in terms of the actions, there's kind of 7 different actions there, but essentially 6 of them can be covered off by 1 update to processes, which has now been done, which was essentially putting in place a process to mitigate and address some of the issues that Selina's highlighted in terms of regular reporting of energy management, recording logs of when meters are defective, make sure it's a regular process and that it's kind of linked to finance data to cross-check to make sure that readings are correct and accurate. So that's all now been put in place. So when we come on to item 8, we'll see there's no overdue management actions, which is really good. And then when we get on to item 13, you'll see that will address action number 1, which is to provide a progress update on the Environment Climate Action Plan and to look at updated strategy for 2025 through to 2030.
So if I look at the summary action plan and we've got March 26 or January 2026 as completion dates, obviously I understand when these reports are published and by the time they make this committee, can you confirm that all of those actions have now been completed?
Assuming that the committee are content with the updated kind of sustainability plan for the future years, then we can sign off all those actions.
So Councillor Gom.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm glad Mr. Hemming explained that, because when members of the public could be looking at that paper, they would feel that the service doesn't really care about energy and that. So I'm really happy that you explain, and it's such a simple resolve to get there. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Councillor Lancaster.
Per usual, Councillor Gom stole my thunder. I think, looking at it as pretty much 6 out of 7 yellows on the paper, energy efficiency, we are always saying on this committee that we need to be looking at energy resolution and solutions. And to find that we've got 7 that we're not, and it is just going to be able to be sorted out by one document for us to sign off, I'm a little bit disappointed that we've got to that stage, because it shouldn't be that we have to find this from an internal audit to then have to bring it to the committee for us to be reasonably happy with it to then sign it off. I just think for future, if we can make sure that we're on top of these things, because it is something that we're always asking for.
I think there's an acknowledgement, and I think this is a report that slipped back. So we were going to take this, I think, in October. But I think the point is well made. So.
Yeah, the smart meters on station has been a constant source of frustration for a long period of time. So it's good that we finally got it over the line, because it is really important to keep on top of energy efficiency, and it's becoming ever increasingly important as we go forwards.
Councillor Gom.
So I'd like to come back there, Chair, and I'd appreciate it. You just mentioned the problem with smart meters. Could you just elaborate slightly so we understand what that issue was?
It was just trying to get them all connected and reporting regularly on station. There's just a number of technical issues that meant the reports on energy weren't coming through, and Celine referred to where meters weren't working. You'll know if you've got a smart meter at home, it doesn't always connect properly. Multiply that across 19 different sites, it can be a bit of a headache, but I think we're finally there now.
Maybe we should send you to work for E.ON or someone like that to get it corrected, but thank you.
I would like you to come and fix mine if you worked out how to do it, because mine always loses connection. So Councillor Lancaster, you had your hand up.
It would just really to say that's the first that we've heard that we're having problems with smart innovation technology for our sites. So again, when we're having these problems, especially for 19 sites we're having to look after, I think it's important that we're bringing them to the committee meetings to say, this is an ongoing problem.
I think this is the benefit of doing internal audit reports and trying to understand where we are, because this is exactly the benefit of going through this process, because we have an independent review of exactly these processes. So, I think that's very, it is the purpose of this committee and internal audit reports to expose these areas and make sure that we are doing what we set out to do. So.
Granted, Chair, but we shouldn't find out once a year for these problems. It should be something that we're looking to have meetings 4 times a year. We should be updated at every single one, if knowing there's a problem. I take on board the internal audits and I thank them for it. And I do thank officers for being able to do so. But being able to find out once a year, knowing it's been a recurring problem, just isn't good enough.
Okay, I think that's noted. Any other comments on this report? No, I think we're happy to move on to the next one.
Thank you, Chair. So we'll move on to Appendix D. So this is the Programme Management Assurance Reviews. As explained, assurance reviews are advisory, so we don't give an opinion. Apologies, page 79 of the pack is where that starts, if you have it electronically. So the scope of the review was to assess the PMO's operating model, the governance, the tools available, and their capability against good practice. So we also considered risks such as reporting, resource optimization, and improvement opportunities within the framework. Within the report, you'll also notice that we did provide a practical roadmap in terms of how we can support the function to strengthen their portfolio management and controls and sort of further benefit realization. So the idea is that we are reviewing the function as it is right now, but also setting out a direction of travel in terms of opportunities to further enhance their control framework. So you'll note that within the report that we did identify areas of good practice. Examples of those include the introduction of the program leadership board, which has significantly improved visibility of major initiatives and created a more structured and strategic decision-making forum. We found evidence of regular monitoring updates, which provides, again, senior leadership with a more consolidated view of the progress being made and enable a more informed prioritization of deliverables. Lastly, just want to highlight another area of good practice we observed. So again, there's been a shift from a 5-year plan to more of an annual plan of working. And again, this has enhanced sort of clarity around accountability of deliverables and further enables the organisation to plan and remain a bit more agile and responsive to sort of key priorities. So our overall assessment of the PMO function is that it's in the early development stage in terms of the maturity journey. So whilst we do have established governance frameworks and the delivery support in place, there is opportunity for the function to develop further to provide more strategic portfolio oversight. And the report does provide opportunities for improvement for the function to take forward in terms of that continuous development framework, and these are set out within the report from pages 88 of the pack. I'll pause there for any comments from members.
Officers would want to comment on the report. Carter.
Thank you. Yes, so we appreciate the assurance review that we've got, and we're now looking at how we build that roadmap into our next year plan to make sure we can kind of evolve the PMO that we've set up.
Councillor Lancaster.
Me again. It says in the people and resourcing part on page 88, and one sentence is portfolio discipline should be further enhanced. Can you just elaborate a bit more on that?
So I think it goes into the way that the plan and the governance framework is. So I think the function at the moment of part of the delivery side of it, but also part of providing the assurance. So I think there's just further resilience within the function, development of the function itself. And again, I think at the moment where they've moved from more that 5-year plan, allowing themselves to further develop, there is greater oversight in the moment. But as you start looking at strategic profile, you will need to enhance your capability as or resource to be able to give that oversight and have a delivery pot of resource as well. And I think that's just where we are in the journey.
So it's more a case of that it's just an oversight and it could be simply fixed.
You want to come in, but I think it's not really an oversight at the moment. I think it's recognising where we are on the maturity journey. So I think what we've done is assess it against best practice. But in our assessment of best practice, it's also taken into account the resource that we have and the capability and finances and what we have internally. So we design our function or propose we design our function within those parameters. So there is an opportunity to recognise that, yes, we might want enterprise PMO, but we can't achieve that because we've got those limitations. So how do we adapt the model that makes sure we're giving the right governance and oversight to members and to leadership, but whilst also continuing to deliver operationally? So I think that's just where we are. We haven't done that mapping of where do we want to go in the maturity model. We are delivering stuff and we're just on that journey.
Yeah, I think Selena has summarised it. We will take this and work out what we can afford to do and what we have the capacity to do. At the moment, we are, I suppose myself as the head of PMO, a programme manager and a project manager. We have grown the team. That's one extra than we had probably 12 months ago, 24 months ago. So we have grown. It would just be whether we have the budget to grow it any further and whether we have the need to grow it any further. The one thing we are looking at though is how do we upskill our other resources, so our station commanders and group commanders that often manage projects, to make sure that they have the skill set to be able to work through project process as well.
I think back to your earlier point, I think this is one of the areas that we might want to come back to as a committee, not necessarily through an internal audit report in the next 12 months, but we might want to have something on the forward plan for next year in terms of where have we got to. Because I think this is really important, you know, when you consider projects like Westcott, like High Wycombe, in terms of redevelopment of that station. I think there are going to be some important projects coming up that we want to be confident that the PMO is where it needs to be in helping deliver those programs. So I think the assurance review here is helpful at setting out what that journey looks like, where we are on that journey, but also then we as a committee can set out what the progress is over a 12-month period. So for the purpose of the minutes, I think we'd like to have that noted that we will schedule that into the forward plan at the appropriate meeting and get an update if that's okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on PMO? No? Okay, have to move on to the next report, and this is the on-call improvement assurance review, and this was something that I'd requested and mentioned at this committee previously. I wanted to ensure that this committee, in its role of overview and audit, you know, another big project, had confidence that the processes undertaken conformed with the gunning principles, and that we were providing some degree of scrutiny. At the point of publication of these papers, phase 1 was available, but phase 2 had yet to go through the senior leadership board, so we weren't able to issue it with these papers. But once that had gone through that process, then we were able to publish it on Monday. So that's why it came out in 2 parts. It was a 2-part project, but the second part wasn't available at the time of publication of these papers. So Harlock, if you want to introduce it.
Thank you, Chair. So I won't go into too much detail, but I think I'll just set the context further to what the Chair's mentioned there. So phase 1 primarily sought to assess the pre-consultation process. So again, to ensure option development and the modelling was robust and consistently applied. So the review considered the consultation approach, the decision-making pathways, to ensure that they were fair, transparent and aligned to the 3 gunning principles. So phase 1 factored in the 3 gunning principles, and as we get to phase 2, we take into account that 4th gunning principles in terms of the post-consultation review. So page 103 of the pack gives you the executive summary that outlines sort of the areas of improvement that we identified. Just want to highlight there were no material findings and observations that we've made in there, but they are opportunities that we had obviously brought to light to senior leadership to take forward for future, and again, useful insight for future consultation as well. I'll pause there for questions. I think you might want to go into specific findings, and I'll take your questions there.
Okay. Anything that officers want to add? My sense is that from conversations with the Chief Fire Officer and you, Simon, you know, you found this helpful in terms of being able to adjust and adapt and so that. So, okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Sherwell?
Not a question, Chairman, more a comment. I think these 2 papers are really useful. Without getting into the meat of the consultation itself, it is clearly that the consultation was associated with a degree of controversy. And I think everybody would accept that. And in those circumstances, when there is that public controversy, it is really important that the process is seen to be correct. So having this report that talks to us in detail about the process, I think is really, really important and very, very helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Gone.
And coming back at what colleagues said there, it was, yeah, as you said, a bit controversial or whatever along the way. and combative, but that was what the consultation is there for members of the public can decide whether a different political party wants to stir the pot slightly, whether it's to the left, to the right, to the middle, is their choice. So, but it is good to see that report. I will dig into that report at some later stage when I've seen more of it, but how the communications were held. But yeah, it's good to see it as it stands so far. But I'm glad there was a good stir up in the public community going through that consultation.
I think it's important that this committee has the opportunity of ensuring that things like this have the level of scrutiny. And the purpose of an assurance is to ensure that the process is working. You know, the content we'll get into next week, but the process is important that we are seen to be operating and in the right way. Councillor Gombe.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could come back. Yeah, we're going to the content next week, and I was only just warming up. So thank you very much. And thank you much to my colleague on the right to stir that slightly. So.
Thank you. Ms. Harlock, do you want to go through the individual findings, or are we happy to move on? Move on? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I will just talk through phase 2 of the on-call improvement programme. So this was the post-consultation assurance. I just want to highlight in terms of the internal audit service, what we did was literally wait for consultations to happen, engage with the service to produce the report, being mindful of the full council and the need for this to feed into this process. So I just want to thank officers in terms of the engagement that facilitated that piece of work as well on our side. It was made life a lot easier for the team. So based on the evidence reviewed, we concluded that the on-call improvement programme had established a clear and structured process that demonstrated conscientious consideration of consultation feedback, supporting compliance with that fourth gunning principle. The programme team did revise assumptions, updated the analysis, and refined proposals where appropriate, with the material being adjusted to evidence that with sort of clear transparency and engagement stakeholder input visible from what we looked at. Again, this was evidence-based through the discussions, but also paperwork that we actually reviewed ourselves. There are 2 minor opportunities for improvement that we've identified in there, but again, I want to highlight those are minor observations, and they're just, like, again, things that we can take for note for future consultations in terms of just further enhancing our approach to consultation. And I will pause there for comments, but the findings that we've raised on page 11 and 12 of that supplementary report. Thank you.
Anything officers want to add at this point? No? Members? Councillor Lancaster?
Just taking on the comments, what you've said about consultations, that they're only minor, and it says about not being able to record about speaking to certain personnel in an appropriate basis, or have a structured approach to documenting it all. Coming into 2026, the council's been here a very long time. I'm very surprised that we're not being able to document properly on having a structured document on knowing who we're actually getting these consultations out to. So could you just elaborate on what they need to have in that structure to make sure that it's satisfactory?
So I think in terms of where we say minor, we look at it in the context of population. So if we might have found an exception or a small exception, but it's not a representation of a fundamental weakness in the process. So again, in us highlighting that, it's a missed opportunity for you to be better. Why can't you just go that extra step and improve in that space? So when we say minor, it's not saying ignore it. It is just an opportunity to do better. There were observations in terms of how we do our consultation, and the recording of the consultation feedback was adequate in terms of what we expect, but we could just enhance it and do better.
Through you, Chair, just I take that on board. It wasn't a criticism, it's more a case of when we've got consultations which are going to get fiery next week, as Councillor Gomez said, whilst we will be playing a political football match, it is a case that we just need to make sure that the details of what we got out there is actually going out to the relevant personnel as much as possible. And if it is just that we need to highlight to go further beyond, that we know that now, but really we should already know that, if that makes sense.
I think the purpose of doing something like this assurance review and consultations in our home authorities, I think, can be reviewed as well. I know it's something that the Buckinghamshire Council Budget Scrutiny Committee have commented on previously in terms of how we go about doing consultations. So I think this was probably on a scale that the fire service has not done before. If there are some learning points that it can take forwards, then I think that's really useful. But yeah, I note your comments. And if there are, the whole point of doing this assurance review is to say the things we could do better in the future. So I'm assured that we've got a minor rather than a major in this.
Just for clarification, I am assured we've got just a minor. It's just a case of, I'm surprised the council, as big as Buckinghamshire Council, working alongside the Fire Authority and also with Milton Keynes, that it's been shown as a minor that we could have done better. It's just a little bit cheeky.
If we were perfect, maybe we wouldn't need an overview and audit committee or or democratically elected members if everything was working perfectly. It's nice to know that we've still got some things we can improve on from time to time or add some value.
We've got you, Councillor Wilson.
So kind. Okay, any other? I think Councillor Carroll might need to leave the room. He looked like he went green at that point. You're doing a sterling job. Thank you. With all of that said, and going back, I think, to what is quite long, are members content to note this set of reports? Thank you. Councillor Gom?
I would like to say something again, Chairman, because with residents looking on, and they see us elected members sat here, not too loud, but quite quiet in a way. And I need people to be reassured, and I'm sure you would agree, that we believe that the officers do a fantastic job through their audit, and the officers over the other side do an extremely good job to resolve any minor issues. So that's why possibly people see us sitting a bit quiet, because we're quite extremely happy with what's delivered. I just wanted that in the public domain so people understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there is a reason for this. There is a reason for this committee, and it is to continuously improve the operation of the authority that we're overseeing. And I would also say, this was not on the original work plan, but given that we had something that appeared that I certainly considered to be very, very important, we do have some capacity, and we'll come on to the future plan. We do have some capacity in the schedule, and I think it's an illustration where this committee can say, well, hang on a minute, we want to spend some of our resource looking at a particular item. So I'm pleased we've done it, and I'm pleased with the outcome. So thank you. Thank you for your comment, Councillor Gom. Okay, I think we're done on that item number 7. So I think we can move on to item number 8. And this is the internal audit report progress update on audit management actions. This is for noting and for members to note the implementation progress of the audit management action. So again, Ms. Harlock, you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a bit of a shorter report. So we're just presenting to you here the position on the internal audit actions. So we have no actions that are overdue to report. They're currently 13 that are in progress. So we haven't provided a detail in terms of what those 13 are, but you will see them at the next meeting as we present the annual opinion. And again, at that point, if there are any that fall overdue, you will have visibility. But we're in a good position at the moment, and our continued liaison with officers is ensuring that, again, those are implemented and addressed within the agreed timescales. So I'll pause there for comment. Ready?
Any questions from members? Councillor Shaw?
Thank you. Accept that actions take different lengths of time because they have different complexity and all the rest of it. Are we on time with the 13 that are still in action?
As of today, we are on track. So I still don't have anything to report that's overdue. So I think members can use the annual report, I think, as an opportunity to provide further scrutiny in terms of the implementation progress. again, what we do is we ensure we provide the notes and comments against progress for each action. So at that point, if there are any that still remain open, you'll be able to see the status as to why that particular action remains open. So you have sight of all the actions related to the audit activity year to date.
At what point do we take items off? So this starts from 23-24 to date, and obviously the world didn't start at 23-24. But when something's completed, will we just kind of add to this list indefinitely, or will we remove completed actions? And so we're focusing on the ones where there's more work to be done.
So we will remove them once they're completed. So I think is that there's a risk of forgetting actions from prior years. So I think there are some actions that are obviously going to take a bit longer to implement and embed, and we will continue to monitor until we're satisfied that it has been fully addressed. So where we have actions that have longer dates, you will continue to see them again. That 23-24 is a late 24 action, so it's not in 2023. So I anticipate again as we go into this year, you shouldn't be seeing something for that financial year. It's just to do with our reporting periods that it looks worse than it is. But from a committee perspective, I think you should get assurance that we don't drop anything, so you don't lose sight of any open actions. We only remove them once they've been fully implemented, and your annual report again gives you visibility of everything in year. So the action from 23-24, you will see that as it falls off the list. Next year, we will be reporting from 25-26 or 24-25. And again, we continue in that cycle. Thanks.
Thank you. So members happy to note that report? Noted. So move on to item number 9. This is the internal audit report, draft internal audit plan 26-27. This is a decision. And the recommendation is in line with the global internal audit standards in the public sector. The committee is asked to approve the 2026-27 internal audit plan. I think this is the one I can get excited about. With the summary, which will be page 134, which shows these by theme and by time. So this is, I'm delighted that the Fire Authority has got this before Buckinghamshire Council, because I've been asking for the same thing on Buckinghamshire Council Audit Committee. So thank you very much for humouring me and laying out that chart there, because I think it does illustrate how long it is since we looked at something and if it's appropriate to come back to it. So I find that useful. So if you'd like to introduce this report, and then so Alex, Ms. Pressridge, you're going to introduce this report.
Strategic objectives and enablers identified for each piece of work. This includes a look at the capital programme, which I think the chair referenced earlier, which includes a look at the Westcott Training Centre and High Wycombe Fire Station capital projects, includes a look at stores, estates and property maintenance, the core financial controls that we revisit every year. And as mentioned, there is also some contingency in there for other work that comes up throughout the year. On page 132, we set out a list of potential audits for review in the following year, with audits identified through discussions with senior leadership and review of emerging risks for the sector. Page 133 sets out the methodology that goes into producing the audit plan. So on the left of the page, you can see what goes into producing the plan, and then with the proposed audits on the plan, a risk assessment is carried out to identify the audits to be undertaken, and then we produce the audit plan, which forms part of the audit strategy. On page 134, I believe we have piece that the chair was getting quite excited about. So it's important to note that it doesn't list audits, it lists audit themes. So it also gives an overview of the assurance pieces we've carried out, and the assurance levels for work undertaken in previous years. As they're not listed by audits, where there have been multiple audits undertaken as part of that theme in a given year, a consolidated assurance level is given on the methodology. I'm happy to pause there for any questions.
The officers want to make any comments on this? Mr. Hemming, you happy with the proposal as we stand? So I'll open it up to members for questions. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, I noticed from this graph, if I've interpreted it correctly, the ICT strategy hasn't been looked at for 10 years. 10 years is a geological period in ICT. And I just wondered whether that gap is wise.
So I think I'll just echo what Alex had mentioned. So I think we've titled that specifically as IT strategy. That's not to say that IT controls within that space have not been looked at all. So for example, if you see further down the list, we have cyber and information security. That is IT related. We just decided to draw that out separately. So we've got elements of IT that we would have been looking at throughout the years. It's just that the particular strategy one is the one that we've not exclusively looked at it in that way. If you look at the plan as well for this year, there is a proposal to look at the IT framework. So again, as part of that framework piece, we'll pick up the strategy element of it. So we just break some of the audits out differently and they title them differently each year, but the controls might be touched in a number of areas.
Okay, does that include looking at artificial intelligence and how as an authority we're looking at the appropriateness or inappropriateness of using same?
So we haven't scoped that piece of work as yet. I think if it's a key risk area and a factor to be considered, I would recommend that we pick it up and scope it at that point. If we're going to look at an IT framework, it should consider emerging risks as well as part of that space and any opportunities that are being explored. So that will be something we'll discuss with officers as we scope the piece of work before we undertake the review.
Mr. Hemming.
Yeah, it's a good point. Just to reassure Councillor Sherwell, is the ICT framework does reference AI and the potential for how we look to adopt that and start to think about that. So it should be covered as part of that when we set out the scope, as Selina says.
Councillor Lancaster.
Thank you. That's quite assuring because obviously splitting a lot of the IT, I completely understand because it's a big corporate area to have to look into, especially moving into times of AI. Because by the time you put legislation in, it's already advanced to the next stage, if I'm honest. But whilst we're looking at that, I'm trying to figure out, for instance, the time frame on that, on the strategy on ICT has been over 10 years as a good example. But then, for instance, the pension administration, we was substantial about it in 2022, but we're going to review that in 2026. Is that because of the 4-year terms when it comes to having to review differences when it comes to tax, for instance? Or is it a case of that we just have to go down the list and choose what we feel is appropriate at that time? Just so we can have a bit of a better understanding on why, for instance, ICT, I get it, has been split in 10 years, but the strategy has taken 10 years.
So I'll go back to the methodology. So we don't necessarily think we haven't touched this piece of work in 10 years, so we ought to look at it. We consider it as part of the review, and it might be that we then draw out key areas within a particular area. So on the strategy one, we might not looked at the strategy itself in the detail and how it's been delivered, but there'll be elements in terms of how we undertake our IT delivery that would pick up as other audits. So using the pension one as an example, we have picked up pension elements of the pension review as part of our core financial controls audit. So when Alex said we've consolidated some of the reviews in these themes because we can't, the list will be very long. So we we follow a risk-based methodology. So if we think there's been a minor change in somewhere, should we touch it? We'll take a view to have a light touch in that particular one. We just haven't done a full pensions administration audit in a while, and that is from a volume and value perspective will be a key financial system control. So it will be prudent to make sure we do have a cyclical approach to it. That's not to say we've not touched it before. The core financial control one would have touched on pensions before, just not as a full end-to-end review.
Ms. Hemming.
Just to add around the ICT strategy and framework, internal audit isn't the only mechanism we get assurance around our IT. So we do use external companies, for example, to do like a pen test around cyber security. So there's kind of a suite of stuff that sits outside the internal audit program that reassures us around some of the kind of more high risk aspects of IT as well, which, as you'll appreciate, cyber security is something that's very fast moving as well.
Members, any other questions or points? I think the purpose of getting this all laid out in terms of the history is quite useful in trying to tease out some of these questions and give us some reassurance that we are revisiting topics on a appropriate basis within our resource envelope. We don't have an unlimited amount of days, but we do keep a bit of capacity. So, you know, it's worth members noting that if there is a topic that they want to come back to, if something arises, smart meters or something else, that we do keep a bit of capacity for exactly those reasons. So, Councillor Lancaster.
I've just noticed that the BLH post-project evaluations, I presume that's Blue Light Hub, especially when we're thinking about risk management when it comes to Westcott in the future, but it says no assurance as of 21 to 22. We know it's up there, it's been up there as a standard thing now, but it's not part of your consideration for the next audit. So can we just get some clarification on that since it's showing us no assurance?
No, absolutely. So I'll give context in terms of that piece of work. So this was when the project was live. We went in and did some audit work at that point. So we had concerns with regard to project delivery and gave an opinion at that point. I think we also did a follow-up as well of that piece of work. So there was probably 2 audits within maybe 6 months that we might have done. It might be that it's consolidated in that. But
an internal audit.
It was an internal audit that we undertook of the Blue Light Hub. So that was a piece of work we did while it was before it was open. I think we did a project evaluation piece of work, and that paper was presented to committee in terms of the outcomes of our review. And equally, we had a number of actions that remained open until implementation, post-implementation as well, that we followed up on. I think going forward, when you make reference to the future capital projects, I think there's an opportunity to learn from what we picked up on that piece of audit. What we have done this time round is we are going in, as you'll notice, for the 26-27 plan. We're part of that project journey early on. We didn't do that for the Blue Light Hub. We came and did the post-project evaluation. So I think the proposal is we maybe have the assurance as part of that journey where we do the sort of project delivery and engage with the service as part of that journey, and also then do the post project evaluation. But it's a continuous learning from the Blue Light Hub to see if we can factor that in with the new projects and do the continuous learning with the recommendation.
Through you, Chair, can I ask, is that something that we can have implemented, especially with projects such as Westcott coming up? Because we just want to give reassurance to residents who we represent that these sites are going to be sufficient. They see this as 21-22 for the stuff that's been done post Blue Light Hub. Yes, it's gone to committees. Some of us weren't on that committee, for instance. So had I had not asked that question, I wouldn't have known that that was the case. So it's just knowing that we've got those reassurances that we are evaluating that our projects are up to scratch and that we're on top of it at all times.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate to note that. I'd probably, if there was a subsequent paper to this, I'd be quite interested to see that. We did talk about PMO assurance earlier on, and I think that's very relevant to this. And we've got the capital projects in this year's forthcoming audit plan. So I think if we can pull all those elements together, then, you know, we can have some degree of confidence. Hopefully, we will seek some degree of confidence, hopefully, on that point. So that's noted. Councillor Gom.
Thank you, Chairman. As we're discussing the Blue Hub as a project and seeing how it's grown since it's been built. I was part of that project right on the early stages, and so was yourself. I'd like to propose.
Project.
So did I. What I'd like to propose is, because I haven't been there actually since it's been built, and as an audit committee, could we go over and see what a fantastic job that project actually is?
Yep, officers are very content,
Thank you.
and I will ask it to be noted that we arrange a meeting, a visit for the committee to.
Very kind, Chairman. Thank you.
It's even suggested that perhaps our next meeting could be hosted at the facility. All right. Yep, okay. If everybody's happy with that. Good. Any other questions or points on this? I think it's raised some good discussion on this point. So this is a decision. So committee is asked to, in line with the global internal audit standards in the public sector, the committee is asked to approve the 2026-27 internal audit plan. Is the committee happy to, do we need a vote on this, or are we just happy to, do we need a proposal or anything like that?
It's everything goes to the vote, Chair. So
Okay, so all those content to approve it? Okay, I think it's unanimous. Thank you. I think, Ms. Harlock, you can breathe now. I think that's your sequence of reports done. So moving on to item number 10. This is corporate risk management. And this, again, is a decision, and the recommendation is the status and changes of identified corporate risks at Appendix 1 be reviewed and approved. And Mr. Palmer, are you introducing this subject?
I am, thank you, Chair.
Please carry on.
I'm also very mindful that last time when I was in this room in July, I knocked my name card off and it made a huge crashing sound. So I'm very mindful today.
I'm sure you've taken the appropriate risks assessment, making sure that that doesn't happen again.
I brought blue tack this time.
Perhaps therefore you may wish to introduce yourself for the benefit of the meeting.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So I'm Liam Palmer, the Risk and Business Continuity Manager, and I'm here today to present the Corporate Risk Register and inform members of changes to 3 of our risk scores. I hope that members found the new template easy to understand. I appreciate there is lots of information to digest, and I wholeheartedly welcome any suggestions on how it can be improved. And members are welcome to contact me or request a chat at any time. As the service does with all identified risks, the Corporate Risk Register is regularly scrutinised to ensure that it appropriately reflects changes in the environment. This is why 3 of our scores have changed, along with the splitting of the devolution and local government reorganisation risk into 2. So 1 risk for devolution and 1 for local government reorganisation. In this update, I'll cover the risks by exception, focusing on the ones where there is a change and welcoming questions from members. I'd also like to add that lead members for the risk areas and the lead member for risk have been consulted, and I have received responses from Councillor Monga and Councillor Stutchbury, who have agreed with the proposed changes. So in that, also forgive me, I should just point out in the commentary, in the cover report, beg your pardon, when we get to devolution, I noticed that I've put the scores changed to 2 times 5, when actually it should be 1 times 5. So the probability is 1 and the impact is 5, and that keeps it in line with the risk register, so where it lies on the matrix and what the score is on the actual entry. So if I may, I'll just jump into industrial action. So the score has been increased due to several different factors, but it takes into consideration the mitigation in place across the Thames Valley Fire Services. I will welcome any questions from members regarding industrial action.
Well, thank you, Mr. Palmer. I think we'll go through each one of these in turn, give members the opportunity of asking questions on them individually rather than doing it collectively. So members have questions on the item of industrial action. This has obviously been an increase in the risk factor. No, I don't think there are questions on that one. So members will be, when we come to the decision, they'll be happy to say, yeah, we accept that one. Okay, thank you. Do you want to move on to the financial stability?
Thank you, Chair. So financial stability, with the final settlement now published and no direct impacts on the service, and therefore much of the uncertainty now cleared away, the score has been reduced. I welcome any questions from members on that one if they have any.
Members, any questions on the financial stability? I think the explanation is there. Yeah, no, I think we're happy to move on.
Thank you, Chair. As I mentioned already, the risk score for devolution has been reduced. I'll pause at this point for any questions you might have for myself or indeed Graham.
Do you want to come in on this one, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As I mentioned when we considered this risk at the November meeting of the Overview and Audit Committee, when officers give commentary on this particular risk of devolution, and when I talk about devolution in terms of the corporate risk register, we're focusing on what's happening or could happen with what's being called BLMK. Officers are very much focused or can only inform the risk based on public domain information. But as I mentioned in November, we do have the benefit of Milton Keynes City Council members on this committee.
For the benefit of everybody, you want to explain what BLMK
yes, sorry,
is?
Just for clarity, it's a proposal that was originally something called the South Midlands Authority and incorporated the two Northamptonshire councils, but now has been winnowed down to a proposal for Bedford, Luton and Milton Keynes. So BLMK, Chair, sorry for that. So we do have the benefit and hopefully insights that Milton Keynes City Council members can bring, but as officers we can only report and inform the risk based on what's in public domain. Since the update commentary on the BLMK risk was included in the pack, which is at pages 157 to 158, and when the reports went for printing, since then there have been some developments which I'd like to inform the committee about. The commentary in the pack focused on the current MHCLG intervention at Bedford Borough Council, which is considered to be quite a parlous state at the moment financially, and also the stepping down at the next in the May election of the Milton Keynes City Council leader. However, on the 17th of February, there was a press article that mentioned that the MHCLG had announced that its preferred footprint for what was called BLMK proposal would include the addition of Central Bedfordshire Council in a proposed spatial development strategy, which many see as the first step on the rung to a foundation strategic authority. Now, as far as the press report, this was supported by the current leader current Labour leader of Milton Keynes City Council. However, the position of Central Bedfordshire Council was uncertain. On the 26th of February, Central Bedfordshire Council had held an extraordinary meeting to consider a notice of motion put forward by the leader of Central Bedfordshire Council about the MHCLG proposal, and that was passed. And in essence, the resolution was in two parts, one in respect of devolution and one in respect of the spatial development strategy. Now, in terms of the devolution bid footprint, including central beds, it's fair to say that the response that the leader was instructed to give to the consultation was be strictly non-committal and would need further information before they decide one way or the other whether they want to be part of an extended devolution bid. And in terms of the spatial development strategy, it's fair to say that the response was antagonistic, and it wished the leader of Central Beds to notify the MHCLG that they should be looking at other partners, including Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire before they made any commitment to the spatial development strategy. So all that said, and bearing in mind that even the devolution priority programmed authorities are not being constituted until May 2028, the fact that at the latest there will be a general election by 2029, that reinforces officers' view that the likelihood should be classed as one. It will be at the impact would be significant. So that's a little bit more background and an update to why that is currently rated as it is. And the proposal, Chair, would be for officers to evaluate again after the May elections in Milton Keynes City Council to see how the land is lying in that respect. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just to note, as Mr. Palmer said, it is a shift from 3 to 1, not 3 to 2, as noted in this report. So, do members have any questions or comments on this change? Councillor Lancaster.
No, not a question, but more a comment. And thank you, Graham, for being able to explain that. I think it's important that we do understand it as a low risk at the moment, because given that we've got the local elections in May, we don't know what the build-up is going to be from the councils, but it's important to understand from Central Bedford's side of things where they are likely to go as part of that. The preferred option has always been seen as a BLMK system, but of course we need to be able to see it from every strategy. And whilst that's probably not going to be coming in until probably, as you say, 28, 29, it is something that we need to be considerate because it will impact at that point. But at this moment in time, when it comes to the audit report, it won't be a high risk as what we thought it was going to be, because we didn't have it put into the strategy for what the government was going to put forward for mayors, regional mayors within this area. We're not considered at the moment, but of course we will be at that moment in time.
Thank you. Any other questions or points on this? Are members happy to approve? Oh, Councillor Carroll.
Just to say again that well done, Mr. Britton, because we did ask for this explanation a meeting ago, and it's been great. It's a lot of work goes into this, and it's great we're all agreeing on this. We'll look at it later on.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's just almost changing by the week, and you know, I think it's one of those where we'll come back to it. And who knows, in 3 months' time, it could be different again. But let's, you know, it's one of those, we just have to keep a watching brief on it. But I sense that members are happy with this change in the reduced rating. So that's agreed, I think. And local government reorganisation?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this used to be included in the devolution risk on the register, but the decision has been made to split it up and make it its own risk due to ongoing activity. I'll pause for any questions, or I believe Graham would like to also add.
Yeah, just to remind members, Chair, that the local government reorganisation aspect is looking at what might happen with the 3 conflicting proposals with Oxfordshire and the potential for a new Bridgeway Council to be formed. There is an update as well on this one. The commentary is at pages 159 to 160, and since that commentary was finalised, I'm aware that the Chief Fire Officer has met with her counterparts at Royal Berkshire and Oxfordshire, and an individual called Peter Lee, who is the Director of Fire at MHCLG. She met online with him on the 26th of March, just to look at what those conflicting proposals might have in respect of impacts on the fire and rescue services.
Thank you for that update. Again, it keeps getting updated by the week, if not by the month. So again, any questions or points from members on local government reorganisation? No? So in the round.
Sorry, Chair, I may have said that meeting happened on the 26th of March. What I meant to, it happened on the 27th. It may happen on the 27th of February. The 26th of March is another point, and that's the deadline by which we're going to respond to the Chief's going to respond to the consultation. So forgive me for that flip.
Thank you. I did on the, although it's not one of the changes under information management, I did note, this is CR 4.0, that there is training for staff on boxfish. Those of us that have the joy of doing boxfish training as members, and I did ask the question whether or not members of the fire authority were also required to do boxfish training, and because we've been described as the weakest link by, I think, our IT people at times. So we may need to do some boxfish training for the fire authority.
Yeah, so Chair, the members are on the circulation list for the boxfish training, which is around cyber security for those that aren't aware, but it's currently set up on your Box Fire email addresses, which I think most of you probably don't use because you use the ones from your respective councils. So if you want members to do it, we can do that, but we'll have to set it up on different email addresses.
I think members will take advice from our IT team, because if we're using our home authority email addresses and we've already done the boxfish training, then is that sufficient? I'm just thinking, because this is a sovereign body and we need to ensure that we are appropriately protected. I mean, the topic of cybersecurity was raised earlier on. I don't wish to encumber members with any more boxfish training than they absolutely want, but I do want to ensure that we are, given the earlier comments about cybersecurity, ensuring that we protect the fire service and the fire authority. So I've got a couple of questions. So Councillor Gom.
Very kind to let me go before Councillor Lancaster. I enjoy boxfish, to be honest. I enjoy trying to outmaneuver it. So if we have to do it, then we do it. But it's if we can have some popcorn at the same time, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, boxfish is boxfish.
Thank you, Councillor Lancaster.
I would probably be there sitting eating popcorn, watching Councillor Gordon give it a go. I think you're absolutely right when it comes to cyber security. I think it's something we need to take back to our local authorities, especially with our councillor email addresses, to make sure it's something that could be sufficient to their security risks as well.
Okay, so I am going to ask that you advise us as to what we need to do, given how members are currently interacting with the fire service and the fire authority from our host authority email addresses, and whether or not we need to do the boxfish training. What I don't want a situation is where we should have done the boxfish training and we haven't done it. So we need to be compliant as a minimum.
Sorry, Chair, is there a deadline on when we need to get that done, the boxfish training?
We do it as a programme, typically on a monthly basis, currently within Buckinghamshire Council, as our IT security team see as appropriate. So what I'm in a sense is saying, I'm very aware that we are members of a sovereign body that needs to ensure that we are fulfilling our duties and requirements for that sovereign body in terms of cyber security. So I'm asking for guidance from officers on this.
Yeah, we'll come back with that guidance. I suspect because it's the same packages that Bucks Council use, it would seem silly doing the same packages again, just on a different email address. But I'll take some advice from the IT manager. I'll find out what Milton Keynes Council do. But in terms of deadlines, we do the rolling programme as well. So it's once a month. It's kind of like bite-sized training. So there's a 5-minute video and then a short quiz to make sure that people have understood it. You have to get 80% to pass. And we monitor that in terms of both, have you done the training, have you done the quiz? And we also send out test emails as well to see if people have kind of learned what they've kind of done in the thing. And we monitor how many people click on links that shouldn't click on links, etc. So it's a really good package that we're getting into. So I'll come back with what we expect from members on that.
Councillor Gong.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I feel it's important as well, and maybe it would be better rather than us going to the department and asking. Maybe it would just be better for the IT from here to go to the IT at Buckingham and Milton Keynes. But quite interesting that you now become MI5, sending out test emails and stuff like that. So we have to be aware now But what happens, so if you send out your test email, how do we score on that one?
But the test email is either pass or fail generally. So, some of them do have different degrees where did you click on the first link? Oh, that's a minor error. If you clicked on the next link and you put in your credentials, yeah, that's a really serious fail. So
And at the end of the year, we get put on the naughty step. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Thank you, Chair.
If you've still got access to your email, you passed. So Bucks Council do the same thing, send out test emails. So yeah, be aware of that. But if you've still got access to your email system, you're doing okay, Councillor Gom. So and regardless of if we don't need to do it, Councillor Gom would still like additional opportunities. I think to while away those dull moments. So Councillor Banks.
Let's just follow that up a bit. Maybe we should add to the risk register the fact that some of the councillors may actually fail this test, and then what the outcomes would possibly be of failure.
I think it's already on the risk register, but I've raised the point that councillors should be included within the information management item already existing on the risk register. So I think we've done that one to death. Coming back to item number 10, then decision. Are the committee content that the status and changes of identified corporate risks at Appendix 1 are reviewed and approved? And again, we'll need a vote on this. So if members could show those in approval. Yeah, I think that's unanimous. So I think we can move on from that one. Thank you for that one, Mr. Palmer. Item number 11 is Treasury Management Performance April to December 25-26. This is for noting and recommendation that the Treasury Management Performance April to December 25-26 report be noted. And Mr. Hussey, are you introducing this item for us? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, officers and members. Today I'll be presenting the Treasury Management Performance Report covering period April to December 2025. The accrued interest earned for this reporting period amounts to 923,000 against a budget for the same period of 450,000, which is an overachievement of 473,000. I can also report this is also an overachievement against the full year budget, which was set at 600,000. The authority is forecasting to achieve 1.3 million interest, and a breakdown of this we provided the full report in the next Overview and Audit Committee. The overachievement is primarily due to holding higher cash balances than anticipated, which relates to delays in the capital programme expenditure and the receipt of upfront pension grant funding, which is yet to be paid out to members. Not you members, but members of the scheme. As a result, the authority has been able to invest these funds in short-term deals to maximise returns in the interim period. In terms of investments, as at the 31st of December 2025, the authority had just over 27.5 million invested in various banks, including building societies, local authorities, money market funds, and current account balances. As you can see from the investment chart on page 167 of your packs, the authority has deals maturing on a frequent basis, with just over 6 million available within 24 hours to ensure the authority is able to meet any short-term expenditure requirements. In terms of borrowing, there has been no change to the authority's borrowing position during this reporting period, with just over 4.5 million in PWLB loans still outstanding. The accrued interest paid on this borrowing in this reporting period is 161,000, and the next loan is due to mature in December 2027, and the funds have already been set aside to pay this when due. Since the last Overview and Audit Committee in November, excuse me, the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee has voted at the December meeting to reduce the base rate from 4% to 3.75%, which is where it currently stands now. The next Monetary Policy Committee meeting is scheduled for 19th of March 2026. As per the prospects of interest rate table, the authority's Treasury advisors are projecting the base rate to remain at 3.75% for the remainder of the financial year, and is forecasting the base rate to reduce to 3.25% by December 2027, the next 18 months. Finally, we will continue to monitor the cash flow position on a regular basis to ensure any surplus funds are reinvested, and we've got enough funds to cover short-term liquidity requirements and day-to-day expenditure. and to obviously obtain a decent level of return. Excuse me. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hussey. And a question from Councillor Sherwell.
Thank you. Investment in local authorities. I mean, I understand you can't use the standard credit rating system from the people that you quote there because they don't do it for local authorities. What assurance process do you use to determine that a local authority is a suitable body to invest in? Because we all know, without mentioning names, that there are some local authorities that are not a suitable body for investing money in.
Yeah, so there's a couple of methods on there. So we use our, through our treasury advisors and through our brokers that we use to make investments, they suggest a certain local authority that's requesting borrowing on a short-term basis. So what we do internally is, or I do internally, is I check the reputation of the local authority. Are they in, they in the news for anything, I'd say bad or any reputational risk for them, then we will stay away from them. I also look at their statement of accounts. I also look at their treasury strategy to see how they're performing and whether we are likely to get our money back, which is one of the factors that we put in place. And again, all local authorities are backed by government as well. So there is that reassurance that we will get our not only our money back, but also the investment side of things as well.
I think Councillor Sherwell's question comes from a position of knowledge on the from Buckinghamshire Council. I think I mentioned this to you, Mr. Hussey. Whilst there is no financial risk because it's backed by government, there is reputational risk for authorities investing. And so I know Buckinghamshire Council has undertaken its own internal sort of rating system, and we've taken a decision that there are certain authorities that we won't, and I think I would suggest that you maybe check with the Treasury team there and see how they've approached it. So, Mr. Hemming.
Yeah, just for members' reassurance and to add to what Mark has said, we have turned down approaches from local authorities in the past. There was one that was investing a lot of money in some sort of solar energy scheme, which didn't look particularly, I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, something we want to stay clear of, and another one that was investing in something else that we thought looked a bit risky for our appetite. So yeah, we do it on a case-by-case basis. It's not just, oh, it's local authority, it's government backed, it's fine. It's, as Marcus says, we do the kind of the due diligence on a case-by-case basis, looking at those factors.
Any other Councillor Gunn?
I'm intrigued. So you're lending your money out. Do you take investors into you as well? So you use other people's money, or is it just fire authority money, fire service money?
It's just fire service money.
Okay.
Any other questions from members on this? I always feel that Mr. Hussey is modest in the performance rating on here, and I just draw members' attention to pages 170 and 171. So benchmarking, which is, we may be doing quite well, but how well are we doing? We continue to perform ahead of the Sterling Overnight Index averages, SONIA. So that is encouraging, albeit as rates have come down, the gap becomes harder to achieve. But I think importantly, on 171, Bucks Fire and Rescue Service versus other fire and rescue services, and the advisors that we use have 14 other fire and rescue service clients. And looking at the weighted average rate of return, we're outperforming all other 14 fire and rescue services. So I think we should give our continuing congratulations to the team for ensuring that we have additional funds available, albeit I understand the circumstances of cash flow and pension management, but when we are investing it, we're getting a better rate of return than peer organisations. So perhaps if you could note that, that on behalf of the committee, I'd like to just offer our thanks and appreciation for the work that goes into this. On that basis, are members happy to note the Treasury Management Performance April to December 25-26? Noted. Thank you. Okay, so we're now moving to item number 12. That is the 24-25 Statement of Assurance. Again, this is a decision with a recommendation that the 24-25 Statement of Assurance be approved for signature by the Chairman of the Overview and Audit Committee and the Chief Fire Officer. And this is on pages 173 to 202. Mr. Britton, are you introducing this item?
Yeah, briefly, Chair, thank you. The requirement for an annual statement of assurance derives from the national framework, and it is intended to provide assurance to the public on financial governance and operational matters, and also to satisfy the public that there is compliance with the national framework with regards to community risk management planning. The draft statement of assurance is at pages 177 to 194 of your pack, with the shaded text highlighted to update from the previous 23-24 statement. Every year, the last piece of the governance or assurance jigsaw tends to be the statement of accounts, and as you'll know, you've signed off the statement of accounts for 2024-25 as recently as the 11th of February, hence the timing of this paper before you today, Chair. Unless I can assist further, that's the report, Chair.
Okay. Do members have any questions? I think it's very useful that you put the changes in the shaded text so that we can just review through that. If there are no questions, I'll go straight to the decision. So this is the 24-25 Statement of Assurance be approved for signature by the Chairman of the Overview and Audit Committee and the Chief Fire Officer. And we'll need to have a vote on this. So if members could show that they are happy to approve it when raising their hand. Thank you. It's unanimous. So that is approved. And presumably I'll get a copy to sign in due course. Excellent. Thank you. I'll sign that after the meeting. Okay, moving on to item number 13. This is the Environment Climate Action Plan Updates and Sustainability Framework. Obviously, we talked a little bit about this earlier on in terms of the energy management. So this is for noting and decision, so that the committee notes the update report and approve the sustainability framework. And Mr. Hemming, you're introducing this one, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So yeah, as you said, it's in two parts. So we're presenting the new sustainability framework for 2025 to 2030 for approval, as well as providing members with an update against achievements against the previous Environment and Climate Action Plan from 2020 to 2025. There's kind of two key areas within that plan. You've got the adaptation and mitigation. So adaptation is around how we adapt our response to meet the increased risk of wildfires, which is detailed within our new CRMP. And mitigation is how we can reduce our own impacts of the service and its staff on the environment going forwards. So some of the key things we've done is all our electricity is now on 100% renewable, sustainable energy, zero carbon, which is positive. The move out of Unit 7 has reduced our energy consumption by 100,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is a big decrease. So moving to more agile working, reducing our footprint is a positive. We talked earlier around smart meters. And as we get more and more into those, we can kind of see real lifetime information, use those to make better decisions and monitor the energy improvements we've done going forwards. So, for example, we installed solar panels at Marlow last year, being able to really see the benefit of those and articulate those to help inform future decision making. And at the last meeting, or possibly the meeting before, there was a request from members as some details of what we do around informing the public about increased risk of wildfires, flooding, climate-related emergencies. So on page 207 of your packs, we've just shown some sample social media communications we've done to help inform the public. Our social media presence has grown kind of exponentially over the last number of months. Some really positive work, the comms team over a number of things, and that means that these messages are now reaching a bigger and bigger audience every single time they go out. So that's a real positive, and we can use that to influence behaviour to help keep the public safer, which is what we're here for. But I'm happy to take any questions members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hemming. Councillor Gom.
I'm glad to hear that your comms are increasing all the time because, social media is a key place. And most of us are all on social media. But sadly, I say I don't receive everything that comes out. Well, not that I would get everything that comes out, but I don't see as much as I'd like to, possibly. But mine's private. I don't know how you get your comms out and about, but maybe it's something a small little group could of us have a chat about to see if we can help increase that in a different way. And then regarding the solar, I'm glad to hear that your smart meter there is working and helping you to decide about the solar panels at Marlow. Do you feel that maybe it's another subject that we should look at, is put more solar panels on more buildings to help bring that figure down even further?
Yeah, so as part of the framework that we've got here, that is something we're looking at. We've talked a bit earlier around Wickham and High Wycombe refurbishment, redevelopment, and that'll be a future business case. As part of that, yeah, we're absolutely looking at kind of putting solar panels on there. From experience on our on-call stations, which have relatively little use, they don't add a lot because there's very little energy being used there. But on the whole tone stations, where the footprint is kind of bigger and we've got a lot higher usage, yeah, we are starting to look at those more widely. We've got them on HQ workshops already. And yeah, Wickham, we think, will reduce early indications by doing solar panels and by improving insulation and other energy efficient measures. We think early indications we can reduce energy consumption by about 20 to 30% there. So yeah, on some of the busy whole time stations, yeah, we're looking at those constantly as we go in and do redevelopment work. And also when we do kind of routine replacements, so if a boiler comes up for replacement, we'll look at actually is it better doing a heat source pump, more energy efficient ways of doing that as well. So it's something we're looking at continually.
To Councillor Gom's point, what is the process for that being reviewed, updated, and to Councillor Lancaster's earlier point about smart meters, where is the governance and scrutiny of that progress and processes? And I'm probably working towards an action that we stick this on the forward plan so that we get an update in terms of how this plan and sustainability framework is translating into action, is kind of where my thought processes are going.
Yeah, under the Environment Climate Action Plan, I think we brought a midterm update, and we've got a closing update here. I think it'd be beneficial, given all the discussions we've had today around kind of getting regular assurance, to make that at least an annual item, so that members can kind of review that on a much more regular basis in terms of progress against achievements there.
Members, if we said, perhaps in 6 months' time, we want to get a report on the progress that's been made on the installation of solar panels, learning from smart meters, any other bits and pieces on this, would that be, members be content with that? So we get that actioned in the minutes. Okay. I think there was some additional questions. So Councillor Lancaster.
I completely welcome that. Thank you, Chair. Just on Councillor Gom's comments when it comes to social media, I can see on here, for instance, I don't know how long the screenshots have been from, but it's reaching to 2,312 followers at the moment, and I presume that's on Facebook, as what we've got with social media. As Councillor Gom said, we are mostly on social media. I'd love to see the day Councillor Gom on TikTok, for instance, but I'm just trying to think of ways that that's only reaching a very small portion. I mean, thinking of Milton Keynes of 300,000 people and Buckinghamshire much, much higher. Is there anything that we are trying to do as an authority to try and target certain community groups, or to try and get that up to be 2,000? Because I just feel that although it's great the messages that we're getting out there, for instance, we know about it because we're on the fire authority, we will go and look for it. But those that want to know what's happening, or even maybe want to pursue a career into looking into the fire and rescue service, are we doing something to be able to help enhance that?
So this is slightly outside my area of expertise. Those are from LinkedIn, actually. I'm a bit of a Luddite. I only have LinkedIn. I don't have Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or anything, Instagram. So yeah, that's probably one of our lower followings is around LinkedIn. Will be much higher on other things. What's also important is not just the number of followers, but also the number of impressions. So people will retweet, other people will see it. So we monitor those as part of our KPIs, and those are what have been going up exponentially in the last few months. So the reach is much, much broader than it is there. But in terms of what members can do, yeah, if you're not following us on social media, follow us on social media and retweet as much as possible, because all exposure is a good exposure on social media.
Who asked that? Was it your question? Yeah. Sorry. Do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, I mean, I take that on board. Wasn't to say for just that purpose. I think if I'm thinking of LinkedIn, it is more a business-minded sort of platform. This is something that needs to go out to the general public who we represent. Business-minded will be looking for business-minded people on LinkedIn. So it is something that needs to go to other platforms. I'm not saying you're an expert or taking that on board, etc. It's more a case of that. I just think we need to be broadening our horizons when it comes to, because I've mentioned about social media before in the committees. Again, I think if we're looking at data, it would be nice to know what data that we've been able to do, if there's any areas that we need to look at targeting, such as other social media platforms. Again, let's look at them as a risk, as we would do with any sort of internal audits, to know how we can actually improve this so people see what Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service are doing to be able to enhance and make people aware of certain campaigns.
I just had a note from Mr. Britton. There is an intention for our communications team to do a presentation at our June annual meeting of the Fire Authority.
Yes, Chair.
So they will be talking about engagement. It is a recurring theme of mine that we do have members who are very active, and we can promote messaging like this. And perhaps if the communications team could notify members when there is communications that we want to be sharing of a public service nature, that we can do a useful job on that. So I'll take Councillor Gomm's question, and then I'll come back to the officers.
Mr. Hemming is on fire today with coming back with us. But, you know, Councillor Lancaster and I are so well moulded together. It's quite incredible. But yeah, you're quite right there, Chairman. You know, us as authority members have never been linked to the social media sites, or vice versa. So, like you say, we're on it quite a lot, just me. So for us to deliver the message, but we need those linked to us. So again, and I know that you're going, yep, that's the way we're going to go around, which is fantastic. And I'm really happy to hear that Councillor Lancaster trolls me on my social media, but can't find me on TikTok. But that's a little bit too young for me, like you are. But yeah, it's great to see that social media developing. My granddaughter looks after mine. But yeah, thank you for bringing the social media up.
Okay, Mr. Birch, I think you wanted to come in.
Yeah, just briefly, just to provide you some assurance that we are doing a lot of work now moving forward, looking at multi-channel marketing as well. So we know full well that some of the community, some of the areas that we need to focus on might not be on social channels. So some of the areas that we're focusing on and trying to link this in with a prevention and an environmental kind of lens is one key area of focus that we're looking at for the 26-27 plan, is making sure that we can extend and increase our prevention engagement around the likes of flooding risk and water safety, because we know full well that through some of our data insights that across our different station areas, or our service delivery areas as we call them, the risks and the challenges may be different, you know. So where in one area we're going to work very closely with the likes of the flooding advisory teams to try and reduce the risk of increase community preparedness and try and reduce the the risk of flooding in certain areas, whereas in other areas you might be focusing more on drowning prevention and you know, open water swimming safety. So it's hopefully an area that we're going to continue to focus on, but ensure that we're really targeted. But equally, we won't just look at utilising our socials, which is really important. We'll look at how we can actually engage physically and across, you know, a range of different channels as well. So hopefully I look forward to demonstrating some of that as we move into 26, 27.
Anybody? Mr. Hemming?
Yeah, so just to clarify something I said earlier, because I don't think I explained it very well. So those screenshots are from LinkedIn, but those campaigns will go across all our platforms. So it will hit the Facebooks, the Twitters, the TikToks, the Instagrams. The only reason I've picked the LinkedIn ones is because I couldn't get the screenshots from the other ones without signing up. So yeah, just to reassure, that does go across all our social platforms. And as Graham said, we'll kind of bring a report to the June Fire Authority around engagement strategy, which will cover social media, but the other channels that Adam's mentioned as well.
Whilst it's just in my head when we're thinking about engagement with other places, I think we just have it on record that we look at maybe working with parish councils, especially because they'll be able to help get the message out there a lot. And I take on board that some areas are different. Stony Stratford and Newport Pagnell will be about flood mitigation, while some other areas it may be about looking at something completely different. So, but if there are things that are targeted, this is where the beauty of ward councillors and parish councillors who know and represent their areas can help and assist you with that. So I think if we can just help communication wise, that's what we're here.
Well said. I think the message is we are here for you. Please use us because we can expand the engagement through our own channels. So, but we look forward to the presentation in June. Any other comments on the Environment and Climate Action Plan update and sustainability framework? So we're going to have a follow-up, and then we've got the communications session coming up. Okay, so as I said, this is for noting and decision that the committee note the update report and approve the sustainability framework. Our members, firstly, happy to note the update report. And can we have a show of hands on approving the sustainability framework? So again, unanimous. Thank you. So that's item 13 done. Thank you, Ms. Hemming. Almost there. So item 14, His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services update for Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service 2023 to 2025. This is for noting with the recommendation that the HMI CFRS update be noted. And I think, Ms. Carter, are you introducing this one? So over to you.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. This paper provides an update on our HMIC FRS journey, including the latest areas for improvement updates and our current inspection. Following our inspection in 2023, our service was identified with 3 causes of concern in the areas of prevention, protection and ED&I, alongside a wide range of areas of improvement. Earlier this year, or actually late last year, HMIC confirmed that all causes of concern are resolved and the HMIC removed us from enhanced monitoring. Focusing on the areas of improvement, we have now closed 1 since the last report to you and 1 remains open. The remaining AFI relates to being able to demount our MDTs, and we are currently in live testing and continue to track that progress through our internal governance. Our 25-27 or round 4 inspection commenced on the 5th of January this year with the document request and staff survey. HMIC FRS are currently in service for their 2nd week of fieldwork, carrying out interviews, desktop reviews, station visits and focus groups. And I'd like to thank all the staff for their contribution and engagement so far. This round of inspection is working on the progress we have made since the previous inspection. As in previous years, our performance will be measured against the HMIC FRS's characteristics of good performance. We hope to see our report in August of this year. Thank you for your time and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Members have any questions on this one? I'm being interviewed tomorrow afternoon by the inspector. And I did the LGA Fire and Rescue Authorities Committee on Monday. and we had somebody from the inspectorate talking about the round five inspections and the themes. So it never goes away. It just keeps coming back in a different form. Like Ofsted, yeah. So, okay, if there's no further questions on that, this is for noting and with a recommendation that the HMI CFRS update be noted. Members content to note it. Okay, thank you. And our final item today is item 15, which is the forward plan. That's on page 227. And it lays out a series of agenda items for July. The timetable has yet to be agreed for next year. And obviously then we can start to complete that once we get into the new year. So any questions on this? Members happy to note that? Noted. Thank you. And with that said, Councillor Lancaster.
I should have mentioned it at the beginning, but I just want to say how delighted I am to see the officers in their new uniforms. They don't look like policemen for the first time in this meeting, but I just wanted to highlight them because they look really good.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you, members. I think we have completed all the business. I need got to sign some documents. But thank you for your time. Thank you for all the excellent questions. Thank you to the officers for attending. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.